Fajardo wedge, tipple Fajardo, whatever you want to call it. I'm still trying to find out the best dimensions. It's really touchy, and if you make it shorter, or if you make it wider, or if you make it thicker, it has an impact on the intonation of the second octave, as well as reducing the sharpness of the first octave. So if you tune a flute with no Fajardo wedge and then you put one in, it's going to be a little bit flatter. At least in all of mine they have been. So the last couple I've been doing them 3/4 of an inch wide and 4 inches long. So this is a 4-inch piece. This is just a scrap. This is also a 1/2 inch PVC. 1/2 inch is actually like 5/8 on the inner diameter, but the outer diameter almost slides into 3/4 inch PVC. Not quite, but it sits, once you quarter off 3/4 of an inch down here, it will sit really nicely in the bottom. And then I have always just freehanded these. Find the middle and then just draw a rough wedge shape. I've definitely run through some trial and error on producing these Fajardo wedges, and this is the best method that I have found. Whenever you cut them, don't cut at 90 degrees to the marking. You want it to be like parallel to the bottom surface. So I'm going to cut the blade this way with the Dremel cutting disc so that it produces a flat, or you might even want to undercut it a little bit. But I use a technique that really doesn't require undercutting, although you could do that. So and then I don't have a belt sander, so this is my alternative that I do. A 3-inch sanding disc. Okay, so I want to show a couple things with these Fajardo wedges. This is the one, which one? This one. The one that I just made. It was too sharp on the second octave, so I cut it down. I'll tell you more about its intonation here in just a second. This is an experimental one that I made. This is the stopper with the Fajardo wedge built into it. I like this idea, except that I glue all of them in permanently. I want to be able to pop the cork out and run my cleaning rags and everything through there and not have to worry about trying to get this back positioned. There's another reason why I don't do this, but I do like the idea. So after I found out this one was too sharp, I made a second one just to see what the difference is. And this one is longer, but it's narrower. This one is 750. This one is, I didn't measure it with the with the vernier caliper, but it is, let's see. What is that? 8, 9, 10, 11 sixteenths. So it's a 1/16 narrower, but it's a little longer. And it's a little closer too. If it is narrower, it can be longer. And if it's wider, it has to be shorter. But I think there's more to it than that. I think that as you play the scale, not only the length, but also the width matter. And I don't fully understand all the differences yet. This one is closer. Let me show you a couple things on installing this. So whenever I first started making flutes, I was installing these down at the 6 o'clock position. If the embouchure hole is up here at the 12 o'clock, and it sounded horrible and I couldn't figure out why. I came up with a solution to mitigate this because I glued one in and then I figured it out afterwards. But as the air enters the embouchure hole and it comes along the inside and it runs into this here, and then it hits this and it creates turbulence and it sounds like garbage. So what you're supposed to do is clock it back to, that would be like the 3 or 4 o'clock position or something. 4 o'clock, I guess, 4 or 5. So that way the air has further to travel before it runs into this. So as I put it in here, I do it to where it's just shy of the embouchure hole, to where it won't cover it up. And then to check whether it's the right size or not, I just compare the two octaves to each other. So I have no holes drilled in this. I'm just checking the bottom note, which is the D, a D4 and a D5. So D4. Like negative 20 cents. D5 is like negative 10 or 12. So that's a little closer than the other one, and I'm going to use this one. I still want to learn more about these embouchures, and I would like to come up with a better method for fabricating them. It works okay, it's just not super, I mean, that's a free-handed design. So when you glue these in, be careful with the super glue. I was tinkering with making a lip plate, and I fixed this on there and I was holding it, and after it dried for 30 seconds, I couldn't pull my thumb away. That whole entire patch of my thumb, it's not showing up in the light very well, it was glued to the PVC, and I ripped 2 holes in my skin. And so be careful with super glue. It's really permanent. It does work really well on PVC. A lot of stuff doesn't stick to PVC very well, but super glue does. So I like to glue it in there because I don't like them rattling around. I had one that I left loose for a little bit, and it did not sound as good as the ones that I glued in. So clock it back there. Since the wedge is glued in place and I've got the stopper in, I can fine tune the bottom D. Like negative 20-ish. I always take my mouth off the flute and get 3 or 4 or 5 different soundings on it, just so I can make sure that I'm getting a good sample of my embouchure, because everyone's embouchure is a little different and it will affect the intonation. So I try to kind of average it out. Now it's a little flat, so I'm going to go, there's 2 ways you can sharpen it. One is to increase the size of the embouchure hole, which I could do that, but I'm pretty happy with it where it is. So I'm going to start shortening using the chop saw. I'm going to take a blade width off at a time. This changes the intonation pretty quick, so you want to go nice and slow. If you see that you're quite a bit flat, don't think, oh, I'll just go ahead and take off a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. I would go a blade width at a time if you're this close to the key that you want to be in. I took off a blade width, and anytime you do anything that's going to put shavings in here, be sure to clean the shavings out. Before I get this thing like finalized, I'm going to run a cleaning rag through here, because if you have junk and debris inside of here, it will affect the tuning. It will present as flatter than it actually is. So if you get it tuned and it's saying 0 cents right on the money, but if it's dirty in here and you go to clean it out, it will be a little bit sharp. So, all right, I took off 1 more blade width. We're only at 2 blade widths shy of where I started now, and negative 12 cents. 1 more blade width is going to do it, I think. -7, -8. If you hold the note, it changes a little bit. So I never know where is like the perfect place to do. I just kind of try to average it out. Okay, I've got it fine cut to length now. I've ran a rag through it a couple times to clean it out, and I'm pretty happy with it. So the second octave, D5, is just a hair sharp. That goes back into all that math that I don't fully understand. Because when it was, before I had cut it to length and it was flat, remember it was like 10 or 15 cents sharp, and now that I've cut it off, now it's like perfect. So wish I was smart, not smart.